For centuries, Native American healers understood something about joint pain that modern medicine is just beginning to rediscover. They identified specific plants that could reduce inflammation, ease stiffness, and restore mobility using nothing more than what grew around their settlements. Number 3 on this list was so revered that entire tribes would migrate seasonally just to harvest it. And number 1 contains a compound that researchers now say rivals pharmaceutical anti-inflammatories. Let's begin. Number 6. White willow bark. Long before aspirin existed in laboratories, the Ojibwe and Cherokee tribes were brewing teas from white willow bark to treat what they called bone fire, the burning sensation of inflamed joints. They would strip the inner bark during early spring when the sap was rising, creating a bitter but powerful remedy that could calm even the most persistent joint pain. Modern science now confirms what these healers knew instinctively. White willow bark contains salicin, a natural precursor to salicylic acid, the active ingredient in aspirin. But here's what makes the natural version superior. While synthetic aspirin can cause stomach bleeding and ulcers with prolonged use, white willow bark includes natural compounds that protect the digestive system. The tannins and flavonoids work alongside the salicin to create what researchers call a buffering effect. A 2014 study published in the Journal of Rheumatology followed patients with chronic lower back pain for 4 weeks. Those taking white willow bark extract showed significant pain reduction compared to placebo, and with none of the gastrointestinal side effects commonly associated with conventional painkillers. The researchers noted that the anti-inflammatory effects were sustained throughout the study period, unlike synthetic alternatives that often require increasing doses. Traditional preparation involves simmering 1 ounce of inner bark in 2 cups of water until the liquid reduced by half. The resulting tea was consumed twice daily, providing steady relief that could last for hours. Some tribes would combine white willow with other anti-inflammatory plants to create what they called joint tonics, formulations passed down through generations of healers. But if white willow impressed early settlers, the next plant completely transformed their understanding of natural pain relief. Number 5. Wild ginger. When European explorers first witnessed Cherokee healers treating joint pain with wild ginger root, they assumed it was the same spice they knew from Asia. They were witnessing something entirely different, a North American native with anti-inflammatory powers that would later astound modern researchers. Wild ginger, or Asarum canadense, grows in rich forest soils from Canada to Georgia, and its heart-shaped leaves hide one of nature's most effective joint pain remedies. The active compounds in wild ginger are dramatically different from its Asian cousin. Where Asian ginger relies primarily on gingerol for its effects, wild ginger contains aristolochic acid and acetone, compounds that target inflammation through completely different biochemical pathways. Native healers would harvest the rhizomes in late fall, either when the plant's energy had concentrated in its underground parts, creating a potent medicine they called earth blood. Traditional preparation required careful attention to detail. Healers would slice the fresh rhizomes thin and steep them in hot water for exactly 20 minutes. Too little time extracted insufficient compounds. Too much time created a medicine too harsh for regular consumption. The resulting tea had an intense, almost numbing quality that provided immediate relief when applied directly to swollen joints. A fascinating aspect of wild ginger's traditional use was its application method. Rather than just drinking the tea, many tribes would soak strips of bark cloth in the concentrated liquid and wrap them around painful joints. This created a sustained release effect, allowing the active compounds to penetrate deeply into inflamed tissue over several hours. Modern transdermal research has validated this approach, showing that certain plant compounds can indeed cross skin barriers and accumulate in underlying joint tissue. The Cherokee developed an interesting variation for severe cases. They would combine wild ginger with the inner bark of sassafras, creating what they called a warming poultice. The combination generated mild heat that opened skin pores and enhanced absorption, a technique that predates modern heat therapy by centuries. This attention to preparation and application methods reveals something crucial about traditional plant medicine that the next entry demonstrates even more powerfully. Number 4. Staghorn Sumac. Across the Great Lakes region, the brilliant red seed clusters of Staghorn Sumac became synonymous with joint relief among the Menominee and Potawatomi tribes. What appeared to early settlers as merely decorative berries were actually concentrated sources of anthocyanins, the same powerful anti-inflammatory compounds found in cherries and blueberries, but in much higher concentrations. A single cluster of sumac berries contains more antioxidant activity than a cup of commercial cranberry juice. The preparation of Staghorn Sumac revealed the sophisticated understanding these healers had of plant chemistry. Rather than using the berries immediately after harvest, they would dry them slowly in shaded areas for several weeks. This controlled dehydration process concentrated the active compounds while breaking down cellular walls that would otherwise limit absorption. Modern food science has confirmed that this traditional drying method increases bioavailability by up to 300%. Traditional sumac tea was prepared cold, never hot. Healers would crush the dried berries gently and soak them in cool water for several hours, creating a tart pink-coloured drink that they consumed throughout the day. Heat, they discovered, destroyed the delicate anthocyanins that provided the anti-inflammatory benefits, a principle that modern research has validated completely. But the real genius of Staghorn Sumac use was in timing. Tribes would begin consuming sumac tea at the first signs of seasonal joint stiffness, typically when the weather began to turn cold. Rather than waiting for pain to develop, they used sumac as a preventive medicine, building up anti-inflammatory compounds in their systems before inflammation could take hold. This approach mirrors modern understanding of chronic inflammation as a gradual process that responds better to prevention than treatment. Recent studies have isolated specific compounds in Staghorn Sumac that inhibit the same inflammatory pathways targeted by modern arthritis medications. The difference is that sumac provides these benefits alongside protective compounds that support overall joint health rather than simply masking symptoms. Researchers at the University of Vermont found that regular sumac consumption actually promoted cartilage repair, something pharmaceutical anti-inflammatories cannot accomplish. The sophistication of this traditional knowledge becomes even more apparent when you understand how the next plant was used. Number 3. Birch bark. For the Algonquin peoples of the northern forests, birch trees represented more than shelter and canoe material. The outer bark contained medicine powerful enough that entire families would travel hundreds of miles to reach prime birch stands during harvest season. They had discovered that paper birch bark, when prepared correctly, contained higher concentrations of methyl salicylate than any other plant in their territory. This is the same compound found in commercial muscle rubs, but in a form that the body could process without the synthetic additives that often cause skin irritation. The harvesting of birch bark followed strict protocols that modern phytochemistry has proven scientifically sound. Healers would only take bark from trees at least 10 years old, during the brief window between late spring and early summer when sap flow was at its peak. This timing ensured maximum concentration of active compounds while allowing the tree to heal without permanent damage. They understood that younger trees lacked sufficient compound development, while older trees had bark too thick for efficient extraction. Traditional preparation involved a two-stage process that extracted different therapeutic compounds. First, the outer bark was carefully separated from inner bark and boiled into a strong tea that provided immediate pain relief when consumed. The inner bark underwent a different treatment. It was dried completely and then burned to create an ash that was mixed with animal fat to form a topical salve. This salve penetrated deeply into joint tissue and provided sustained relief for up to 12 hours. Modern analysis has revealed why this two-stage approach was so effective. The water-soluble compounds in the outer bark provided systemic anti-inflammatory effects when consumed as tea. The inner bark, however, contained fat-soluble compounds that required the lipid base of the salve for proper absorption through skin. By combining both approaches, traditional healers achieved both immediate and long-term joint pain relief using a single plant source. Perhaps most remarkably, birch bark preparations were often combined with specific dietary protocols. During peak treatment periods, patients would avoid certain foods known to increase inflammation, while consuming others that enhanced the bark's effects. This holistic approach treated joint pain as a whole-body condition rather than an isolated problem, a perspective that modern integrative medicine is just beginning to embrace. But even birch bark pales in comparison to the next plant's remarkable properties. Number 2. Devil's claw. While devil's claw is native to the Kalahari Desert of Africa, its use by North American tribes represents one of the most fascinating examples of pre-Columbian plant trade networks. Archaeological evidence suggests that devil's claw reached certain southwestern tribes through complex trading relationships that spanned continents, and those who possessed it guarded the knowledge of its use carefully. The dried tubers were worth their weight in turquoise. And for good reason. Devil's claw contains compounds that modern research has shown to be as effective as pharmaceutical anti-inflammatories for certain types of joint pain. The active compound in devil's claw, called harpagoside, works through a mechanism that pharmaceutical companies spent decades trying to replicate. Instead of simply blocking pain signals like conventional painkillers, harpagoside actually reduces the production of inflammatory molecules at their source. A 2014 study published in Phytotherapy Research found that devil's claw extract reduced inflammatory markers by up to 60% in patients with osteoarthritis, results that rival prescription medications without the associated side effects. Traditional preparation of devil's claw required exceptional skill and patience. The tubers were first soaked in cool water for 3 days to soften their incredibly hard exterior, then carefully sliced and dried again under specific conditions that preserved the active compounds. The resulting pieces were ground into powder and consumed as a bitter tea, typically taken twice daily on an empty stomach for maximum absorption. What made devil's claw particularly valuable was its sustained effects. While other plant medicines provided relief that lasted hours, properly prepared devil's claw could reduce joint inflammation for days after a single dose. This allowed people with severe joint problems to maintain mobility and function with minimal daily treatment, a crucial advantage for nomadic peoples who couldn't always access fresh plant medicines. Modern research has confirmed this sustained effect. Unlike synthetic anti-inflammatories that clear the system within hours, the active compounds in devil's claw accumulate in joint tissue over time, providing progressively better relief with consistent use. Clinical studies show that patients often experience their best results after 3 to 4 weeks of regular consumption, exactly matching traditional usage patterns described in historical accounts. The quality and sourcing issues surrounding modern devil's claw supplements reveal why traditional preparation methods were so crucial, and why the final plant on our list may be the most important of all. Number 1. Wild turmeric. Hidden in the damp forests of the Pacific Northwest grows a plant that most people would never associate with the golden turmeric of Asian cuisine. Wild turmeric, or Oregon grape root, yes, contains berberine and other alkaloids that create anti-inflammatory effects more potent than its famous tropical cousin. The Kinol and Makah tribes understood this plant's power so well that they established seasonal camps specifically for harvesting its bright yellow roots, and the knowledge of its preparation was restricted to the most skilled healers in each tribe. The compound profile of wild turmeric differs significantly from cultivated turmeric. While Asian turmeric relies primarily on curcumin for its anti-inflammatory effects, wild turmeric contains berberine, hydrastine, and canidine, alkaloids that target inflammation through multiple biochemical pathways simultaneously. This creates what researchers call a synergistic effect, where the combined action is greater than the sum of individual compounds. Modern studies have shown that berberine alone can reduce inflammatory markers by up to 70%, making wild turmeric one of the most powerful natural anti-inflammatories ever tested. Traditional harvesting required precise timing and technique. Healers would only dig the roots during late autumn, after the plant had concentrated its energy underground, but before winter, frost could damage the active compounds. The roots were cleaned meticulously and dried in specific patterns that ensured even moisture removal without compound degradation. This process could take up to 6 weeks, during which the roots were turned daily and protected from direct sunlight. The preparation of wild turmeric medicine involved a complex extraction process that maximized bioavailability. Fresh or properly dried roots were first ground to a fine powder, then mixed with specific ratios of water and natural acids from other plants to break down cellular walls. This mixture was allowed to ferment for exactly 7 days, creating a potent tincture that could provide joint pain relief for months when stored correctly. What made wild turmeric truly exceptional was its ability to address the root causes of joint inflammation rather than just symptoms. The berberine in wild turmeric has been shown to regulate immune system responses that contribute to chronic inflammation, while other alkaloids promote the repair of damaged cartilage and connective tissue. Clinical research published in the International Journal of Rheumatic Diseases found that patients taking berberine supplements experienced not just pain relief, but actual improvement in joint function and mobility over time. Perhaps most importantly, wild turmeric demonstrated none of the side effects associated with long-term use of conventional anti-inflammatory drugs. Traditional healers could prescribe wild turmeric preparations for months or even years without concern for liver damage, stomach ulcers, or cardiovascular problems that plague modern pharmaceutical approaches to joint pain management. These 6 plants represent more than just historical curiosities. They embody a sophisticated understanding of plant chemistry and human physiology that modern medicine is still working to fully comprehend. The traditional healers who developed these preparations understood that true healing required addressing inflammation at its source rather than merely masking symptoms. And they achieved this using nothing more than careful observation and generations of accumulated wisdom. The most striking aspect of this traditional knowledge is how it anticipated many principles that modern research has validated. The use of specific timing for harvest, careful attention to preparation methods, and understanding of synergistic effects all reflect a deep comprehension of plant medicine that rivals contemporary pharmaceutical development. Today, as more people seek alternatives to synthetic medications for joint pain management, these traditional approaches offer proven solutions that work with the body's natural healing processes rather than against them. The key lies in understanding that these plants are not quick fixes but rather tools for supporting long-term joint health and mobility. Which of these traditional remedies surprised you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe for more insights into the forgotten wisdom of natural healing. The knowledge our ancestors preserved could be the key to addressing modern health challenges in ways that honour both traditional wisdom and scientific understanding.